मैं भी मिडिल क्लास की हूँ. I identify myself with middle class, so I know.
That was Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman weeks before the budget. She identified herself as a member of the middle class. Now let's consider only income as the parameter to determine which class does a member of parliament would fall under. According to the PRS legislative research, a member of parliament earns 2.3 lakh rupees per month. That includes all the expenses and allowances given to an MP for a smooth functioning of the office. So in total, a lawmaker earns close to 27 lakhs per year. Now if the finance minister, one of the most powerful lawmakers in the country, counts herself among the middle class, where do you and I stand? Who makes up of this demographic? Whose struggles are glorified?
Growing up middle class in India, that sort of sometimes is challenging.
And aspirations are glamorized in popular literature and cinema.
अगर तू सबसे बड़ा मिडिल क्लास निकला तो टास्क में तेरा आना पक्का.
Let's dig a little deeper to find out what is middle class and more importantly, who are middle class in an Indian context. But before that, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Moneycontrol channel. There are several ways to determine who is middle class. It can be either based on assets, wealth or income. Many expert economists favor income when it comes to defining classes. This is because data on income is widely available and partly because income tends to highly correlate with the other trappings of social class. Matlab, people with high income generally have a better economic security, higher education levels, better housing and a bigger consumer preference. Now just like the finance minister, every other person in India identifies themselves as part of the middle class. That's not a blanking statement based on generalization, but a data-backed finding. According to a multi-year panel survey by the Centre of Advanced Studies of India, or CASI, about 50% of Indian population self-identify as middle class. So half the country thinks they are middle class, but this can't be farther from the truth. According to the findings of Pew Research, only 2% of Indians are actually middle income. And even that number is shrinking. According to the latest data from World Bank, the Indian middle class shrunk from 9.9 crore to 6.6 crore in 2020 due to economic impacts of the pandemic. In isolation, this figure of 6.6 crore might seem large, but in context of India, this number is not that substantial. Let's have a look at a comparison. As per the latest census data, the number of people living in Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, is close to 20 crores. So the number of people who would be considered middle income, according to the Pew Research, would just be 33% of the total population of Uttar Pradesh. This is just 1/3 of the population of just one Indian state. Now, it is important to clarify that middle income and middle class are not the same thing. The Pew Research divided the population of the country into 5 groups based on a family's daily per capita income or income per person. These 5 groups are poor, low income, middle income, upper middle income, and high income. The poor lives on $2 or less on daily basis, that is around 150 rupees per day. People in the low income category live on $2 to $10 per day or 150 to 700 rupees per day. People in the middle income category live on $10 to $20 per day or 700 to 1500 rupees per day. And the last two categories fall under the rich class. That is, the upper middle income and the higher income earns more than 1500 rupees per day. According to the Pew Research, up to 95% of India still qualifies as poor or low income, while only 2% of the country's population falls under the middle income zone. The idea of the booming middle class caught steam when the world witnessed a historic decline in poverty in the first decade of the 2000s. It was assumed that people who were previously considered poor, based solely on their income, must have leveled up and are now part of the growing middle class. But the Pew report data points out that while poverty rate in India did decline between 2001 to 2011, the share of middle-class Indians did not increase much. According to the report, when the Indian economy grew, the people in the poor category moved up to the low-income category, but only a small proportion of the people in the low-income category moved up to the middle-income category. The consequence of this misconception has a direct impact on the real world. Several international companies have tried to capitalize on the so-called burgeoning middle class in India, but have failed to turn their investments into profits because their target demographic turned out to be quite small and concentrated in few urban centers in India. The sheer magnitude of the Indian population makes it difficult to categorize the population within definite boundaries. According to the new report by World Inequality Database, an annual income of Rs 18.6 lakh or more in 2021 would put an Indian among the richest 1% of the country. Based on that report, a person who earns around 1.5 lakh rupees in a given year is categorized as middle income. The report also highlights an extreme level of income inequality in India. The average national income of an Indian adult population is close to Rs 2 lakh. The top 10% homes in India hold 57% of total national income, while the top 1% holds 22% of the total national income. Meanwhile, the middle 40% of the country holds close to just 30% of the total national income. The situation worsened during the pandemic. While on one hand, India's billionaire count rose from 40 to 142 in 2021, India's middle class shrunk further as more people fell back into the low-income category or further even below the poverty line. While only a small percentage of India is classified as middle class, it is the one that drives the policy change and development in the country. These are the people who go to the theatre, they walk around with the Starbucks, they go on annual vacations, and are massively overrepresented in the white-collar jobs. In films and pop culture, middle class is valorized as the hard-working, tax-paying class. That's because the middle class makes up a chunk of a total consumption and is a major contributor to savings and human capital. A bigger middle class spends more, leading to higher business profits, savings, and investments. And what they collectively share is a sense of optimism. For more such videos, keep watching Money Control.